We're Dan Weinman here today, main event champion from 2023. So tell me a little bit about your experience in 2024. How was it different sitting at the table? Everybody knew who you were. And overall, you played in a fairly number of tournaments, right? How many did you play?
Yeah, I definitely played a lighter schedule. It's definitely weird being, the champ, as people are calling me. Well, up until Tamayo won it a couple months ago, but
Right.
it's strange. I think a lot of people who get into poker and succeed are definitely more the introverted type, and I definitely fall into that category. So it is really weird for me to sit down and have eight people instantly want to strike up a conversation with me. But I get it. It comes with the territory. It's fun recounting what happened in 2023. Even though I may get tired of telling people that yes, I do like pocket jacks. But yeah, it was a different experience. One that I would say I'm not perfectly built for. So that probably led to me playing a little bit less at the World Series than usual.
I thought you did a great job as a representative for the game for poker. Every time I saw you, you even signed an autograph for me on this old jersey I had. Tell me a little bit about your main event experience. I just saw your post on Twitter. I'm not gonna. What'd you say? I'm not gonna be first again this time.
Yeah, I had to, give Mark Newhouse the call back after his, ninth place back-to-back years and calling his shot again.
Yeah.
I found out I wasn't the first person to do that, so I think Martin Jakobsen kind of stole my grand idea there. But this year the main was, not too different than last year, other than last year I max cashed and this year I min cashed. I was kind of surprised at how little attention I got, which was, kind of a blessing and a curse. I thought I would have, Poker News or PokerORG, whoever was doing the reporting. I thought I would have reporters all around. I thought I would spend a lot of time on feature tables. I think I played one orbit total at a side feature table, and made it till day four. So it was, a bit strange from that perspective. I know usually, the former champ is just like front and center Thunderdome the whole time. But yeah, in one hand, I like kind of not being the center of attention, but also it's kind of nice playing there when everyone is kind of scared to make a big mistake on stream.
Could this all be Jeff Platt's fault? He kept the
It,
press.
it could be a Platt thing, after I completely ignored him last year on the way to the championship. I gave him an interview on late on day three this year and promptly busted the next level.
Well, Tomeo says the curse is over. It's over. So tell me a bit about your experience with or your feelings about the sale. I've talked to Sean and some other people across the board, five or six people since the World Series IP was sold to Gigi Poker. Can you tell me a little bit about how you felt about all that, and what do you think about the future of working with Gigi and ongoingly like this?
Yeah, it's interesting. At the end of the day, GG Poker wants to grow the game of poker. That's clear. Buying the World Series has to be good for their brand, drive more traffic to their online site, get more people involved in poker who
Yeah.
haven't been involved in the past. That's a big passion of mine. That's what I do with my company on the side. I'm excited to see what happens with the World Series. I don't think it's going to look entirely different. I'm sure you'll see a lot more GG advertising, maybe a few more of the, flip and go ish sponsored kind of tournaments that some people love, some people hate. But I think from a player's perspective, it can't really do anything but get better.
Right. Um, so a little bit about your company, so I can put that in the article. Tell me about the new company. I met your CEO when I took a workshop at PokerGo with the two Andrews, Moreno and Lichtenberger,
Mhm.
back in the spring, and it was fun. And I met your CEO. He was a really nice man. We talked for a few minutes.
Yeah, this company started 4 years ago. By I think you met Manish.
Yeah.
His son Monit started this company as a freshman at Georgia Tech, and he basically was just trying to build a way to track analytics and data in live poker. We have Poker Tracker for online poker. Nothing really exists for the live game.
Right.
You have some tables that are electronic tables that you'll see on cruises, but it doesn't really feel like you're playing poker. So Monit kind of built this first prototype, a live poker table with real cards, real chips, but able to track everything. So we built this system. We have kind of like pivoted a few times. I think 27 card rooms now are using our technology to stream their games. The Lodge is using our table. Hustler is switching over to our table right now. So
Oh, nice.
it's really exciting to see, stuff we've been working on getting out there and being used. But, our end goal is kind of like what I was talking about earlier with Gigi. We want to bring more people to the game of poker. So,
Agreed.
at the end of the day, we would love to open up a, restaurant ish concept or a Top Golf like concept where we can put 10 or 20 of our high tech smart poker tables in there and just bring a ton of people out to have a good time and
That's
play
cool.
poker.
Yeah. So this way, because I was talking to the PokerORG CEO and editor the other day about the poker reporting. So this way, all the chips are tracked. They have receivers in them, so you can tell what every player has at any one time, any one
Yeah,
moment.
exactly like the current streams, all of the cards have RFID technology in
Right.
them. The way that the current system works is, you scan your cards and there's a guy sitting in a back room that has access to all this data. Now, if that guy gets compromised, we have some security issues. So we kind of just replaced all of the human element and put some RFID tags in the chips themselves. So everything
Right.
is just tracked like the cards are.
No, that's so cool. So give me your take, your short take. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions about this, about the final table and the use of solvers in the audience and going back and forth with Tomeo. And I've had a great interview with him. He's a really cool person. And I want to bring him up in his golf game when we get to that question. But I know you had coaches for many years in the November 9. Everybody had coaches for 3 months. And you had some great coaches in your corner, obviously, with Sean and Josh and Matt, who were, have been there, done that. So tell me a bit about your experience of. Daniel said I would have stepped right up if I was there and told the tournament director right away what was going on. But how did you feel about all that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Jonathan has gotten a lot of backlash, and I think the two of us are very similar. Neither one of us really want to like be very present on social media and be these like face of the poker world that a lot of people in the past have wanted to been. So it can't be easy for him. Everything
Yeah.
he sees is he cheated or he's gaining an unfair edge. I mean, I think for me, as a non-solver poker player, it's not a huge deal. If I had to rank the importance of the information he got from Dom sitting on the rail running sims and the information I got from being able to run over and have Sean and Josh and Matt telling me, just stay in it. We noticed that this guy's playing a little bit too tight. You can kind of pick on him. I would
Yeah.
say I got a lot more valuable information. Now, there is a rule in the rule book that says Jonathan can't do what he did, but at the end of the day, if it's not going to be a rule that's enforced, I don't think it's a big deal. But, encompassing the whole thing is solvers in general just are not a good look for poker. If we go back towards the growing the game aspect, you know, who is going to want to come in and play this game and especially play it for a lot of money if they think that the best players in the world are just computers and it's not really a social game anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, Daniel, when I spoke with him on a podcast, he thought the same thing. He said Jonathan would have been okay without it. He would have been just fine. And obviously, he didn't think it was anything wrong with it. They're doing it in front of everybody, so it was an interesting take. And it looks like PokerStar is one of the first people to instantly have new rules at the EPT over there. I'm curious. I've reached out to Mr. Ethel to see if we could talk a bit about what the how the WSOP is going to deal with it. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw Kenny Heller's post about what they're doing at Barcelona, and it seemed like there was a lot of great things, moving forward. But it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how they're enforced. I mean, the first time we see someone actually kicked out of a poker tournament for using a solver is going to be a huge day. Whether it's at a big final table or in the money. I mean, I'm sure it's going to get a lot of backlash. It felt like a lot of the rules had a lot of we will try to enforce or we really want to have phones not be at the table, which are all good things for the game itself, but really do take away from the social aspect. So it's an impossible balance, and guys like Jack and Matt Savage and anyone that are making the rules really have a tough task.
I was going to ask you about Matt Savage's. He did a poll, I think, on Twitter about should we ban cell phones at the table. How do you feel about just not having your phone at the table at all.
I mean, I
So
can't imagine playing poker without my phone just because, I'm a tighter player than most. So, hands I fold. If I'm not talking to someone, I'm usually scrolling Twitter or doing something. A lot of people make the argument that you're never going to get a businessman in the game if he doesn't have access to his
yeah,
phone. Phones are just unfortunately part of our social life these days. So I think, disconnecting someone from their phone really takes them out of their element. Could be great for poker, but I don't think it's good for the social aspect of it.
yeah, I miss the days, kind of Chris Moneymaker and Sam Paul. There were no phones, there were nothing going on. That heads up match was just mano a mano, and it
Hmm.
was a fun thing to watch. Um, and how was your? Because I talked to Sean right before the World Series. He did predict big things for Team Lucky. I did want Matt to win a bracelet, but how did Team Lucky do overall? You guys are a great group, and how was it fun for you guys this
We
time
had a
around?
blast. I think we kind of got everyone's hopes up. We did a big feature on Poker News about this is Team Lucky and all of this. We're
Yeah.
coming for the World Series of Poker, and I think we all had some of our worst summers ever.
Wow.
Sean didn't no bracelets. I think Josh had a second, 2 seconds. But everybody lost money. Sean drafted me in the 25K draft, even though I said I
Wow.
wasn't playing a lot. So, it was strange. It was nice to have that camaraderie, but I think
Yeah.
it almost put a little bit of pressure on us to do more because every time you logged in, you would see that Team Lucky badge next to our name. So, Team Lucky is definitely a thing going forward, but I don't think we're gonna, market it as much as we did this summer.
Not going to talk too much about it, right? Until it happens again. So one of the reasons, well, maybe I'll save this for last. So I did notice that soon after Jonathan, the main event winner, won what $12 million, something like that, you immediately hit him up on X and said, "Hey, let's go tee it up, man. Are you looking to play a little high stakes round there per hole, or what were you thinking? Have you played with Jonathan before?"
I'm trying to think. I've known Jonathan for, at least over a decade. I met
Yeah.
Joe McKeon close to 15 years ago. We played a lot of poker, a lot of open faced Chinese together. And him and Jonathan were always very close. So I've gotten to know Jonathan. I wouldn't say we're close. I know on a couple of circuit stops, I would always bring my clubs. So we would get out and play a lot of golf. So I'm actually not 100% sure if I've played with Jonathan before, but I know he plays golf, and it was kind of just my friendly way of saying welcome to the main event champs club. But I'm always open for some high stakes golf if the opportunity presents.
Of course, $100,000 a birdie, little sandies. And what's your handicap?
Right now I'm a +2.
Oh shit!
Yeah, the golf game is really good. Coming off a unfortunate ninth place finish in the club championship, but you know golf is definitely my passion away from work and poker.
I got a golf scholarship to college. I never got +2, but I was 16, 17. Have
Okay.
you ever played in the U.S. Amateur? Any tournaments like that?
I try to qualify for stuff. I actually missed almost everything this year. I was just busy with work, busy with the company, kind of gearing up for the World Series. But in the past, I've played a few USAM qualifiers, a few US Mid Am qualifiers. That's definitely a goal of mine. Play one USGA event.
Yeah, US
Hopefully.
US Open. I mean, those courses. I played on the US Open course. Well, amateur course right before James River course in Richmond, Virginia, hosted the amateur years ago when I was like 18, and it was brutal. I mean, if you just rolled in the rough, you couldn't get it out. You just have to hack it out and then get on the green. It was that tall and hard.
It,
Bermuda grass, and stuff like that.
it really is. It's like every time I think I'm getting good at golf, you quickly realize how much better the guys at the next level are, all the way up to the guys at the top. It's like, I'll play a US Open qualifier and suddenly I'm going from playing good club golfers to good college golfers. And it's like, okay, these guys can shoot 66 with their eyes closed. And that's a career round for me. And none of these guys can even make it on like a Corn Ferry tour. None of those guys can make it on a PGA tour. So, it really is a tough ladder to climb in that game.
Yeah, that was sort of my dream as a teenager to make it on the pro tour. I had a couple of friends made it on tour. One guy won an event, Robert Wren, but it was fun to be an outside play because Curtis Strange was a few years before me. Curtis is a great player. Lanny Watkins, if you know some of these, older pros,
Yeah, for sure.
they were fun to watch when I was growing up. So I do have to bring up the topic. Well, um, So I read again, and our CEO said, "Hey, reach out to Dana. I read the story again. I got to know, how did you happen to end up playing golf with President Trump? How did that happen? Were you trying to make some extra money on the side? What's going on here?"
No, this was interesting. I probably should avoid getting too deep into this because the last time I talked about this in an interview, it kind of led to some backlash, and a couple bad articles were written away from the tables. But um, it was okay. I was living up in New York at the time, and in my time living in Atlanta, I'd become good friends with golf through golf with John Smoltz, the Braves pitcher.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
we had played a ton of golf. He was working for MLB Network at the time. He was up in New York, calling a few games in the studio there. And he calls me up one day and says, "Hey, do you want to come down to Jersey and play golf for a few days? Bring a couple buddies. We'll have a good time." So, every time this has happened in the past, it's always been fun. We've played some great golf courses. And on the way down, he says, "How do you guys feel about playing with 45?" And I'm thinking through Braves players, is that Glavin?
Number 45.
45's not ringing a bell. And he's like, no, no, the 45th president. So I guess the two of them have gotten close through golf as well, and through politics. Me not being, having any idea what's going on in the world politically, it's not my forte. But it was a fun experience. We played 2 days of golf. It was no matter which side you fall on the political spectrum, I think it's hard to say no to playing golf with the president.
No, actually, I think Josh played with him also. Yeah, it's not about the politics. I was just curious, but I grew up in Virginia, as I said, playing golf, and I definitely called a couple penalties on myself. The ball moved in the trap or in a hazard, whatever it might have been. So to me, it was a gentleman's game that you called penalties on yourself. You in the article I mentioned, you said that somehow you got up to your ball and he was way ahead of you. And said how I mean that he sort of somehow his ball was moved forward. Talk a little bit about that if you whatever you can share about you know golf, or is that something he did ongoingly? It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to get too into what necessarily happened in the round. Kind of like I said before, there was some backlash the last time I talked about this.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it was a great experience. He is a surprisingly good golfer, for his age. He was a positive person, and I can understand why people love him and why people hate him. But,
Yeah.
I kind of would like to leave it at that.
Okay. Was there anything you remember that you guys talked about? What was from seeing his public persona? What was the thing that you found most intriguing by spending time with him and talking with him? Because when you're playing 18 holes, 36 holes, you guys played. Everybody talks, shares experiences. I'm curious.
Yeah,
He knew about your poker background, right?
yeah, I think I was the most, intrigued by how much of an interest he took in people. He had no reason to talk to me or talk to my two friends from my club at home, but we had a 5 minute wait on a tee, and he asked me, about the poker world, and where do you play? Where's your favorite place to play? Have you ever
Hmm.
played in one of my casinos?
Oh,
It was, he definitely took an interest, and there wasn't any, let me relay this back to myself. I think he was genuinely interested in, the people that he was around.
no, that was really cool. Last question, real quick. So, you're probably a really frugal person, but I was just curious. After the big win, was there anything you surprised yourself, or the craziest thing you did with some of your winnings afterwards, or just treat? I mean, you're getting married. Did you soon, right? In the
Yeah, I'm
next?
actually getting married a week from Friday, so like
Yeah,
10,
Sean
10
told me
days
about that.
away.
Nice.
A lot of it is,
Congratulations.
yeah, a lot of the money's going to the wedding. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I am a more frugal person. I invested almost all of the money that I was able to keep after taxes. I bought a nice house that'll probably be my
Nice.
house with my fiance for the next 20 or 30 years, hopefully. And it's funny, you win this tournament, and it gets said, Dan wins $12 million, and everyone just assumes, oh, you have $12 million in the bank.
Oh,
But
yeah.
no one thinks, okay, maybe I had some swaps, maybe I sold some action at different points. You obviously get taxed on whatever portion you get to keep, so it's not like there's just this giant pile of money sitting there. I won't complain. It was definitely a great thing that happened money wise. But it's not like it completely changed my life.
Yeah. Was there any? What was the biggest struggle with winning something as big as that? Is there any one thing you came across and go, "Hey, this is just obviously not just all fun and games, but something you may have struggled probably being in the public eye mostly. You even said that to me at Commerce, right?"
Yeah, it was interesting because I, you know, in the poker world, I always had some recognition, but you realize how small the poker world is compared to the regular world. But once it kind of starts to bleed over, I think, a local newspaper posted that I had won, and the Georgia Tech Alumni magazine, we had a big surprise party at a restaurant in Atlanta, and, half the restaurant had no idea what was going on. They just see a big picture of me with a pile of money. um, so there's like there's some safety concerns, honestly. I stopped playing home games in Atlanta because I was, a little bit worried. Okay, I don't really know all of these people. They know that, I just won a big pile of money. They think I have this giant diamond bracelet just like sitting at my house. So there was, a little bit of concern of, what is going to happen. And, I've played home games for a long time. I've been cheated and robbed and raided, and it was like I just feel like the chances of these things happening now are probably 100 times what they were a year ago.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it, and I really wish you the best in your wedding. And this sounds like a fun time for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a little bit nerve wracking, but definitely exciting. Looking forward to not being the single guy anymore and joining all my buddies on the married train.
Where are you going on your honeymoon?
We're going to Africa.
Holy cow!
Doing
Have you
a
ever been?
I haven't. No, I
Was
know
this her
WPT
idea or
times.
your idea?
Kind of both of ours. We're both golfers, and first we were like, let's just do a golf trip, but we're going to do a million golf trips over the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Neither one of us love beaches, so it's like, what is something totally spontaneous? Both animal lovers, so I think a safari would be really cool.